So to start off with, I gave you a little handout here. There has been some changes in our city code that actually have an effect on the Parks and Recreation Board. This started as a result from staff being directed to draft an ordinance to consider combining the Youth Center Board with this particular body, the Parks and Recreation Board. However, after different discussions and public meetings, the Youth Center Board is still its own entity. However, while we were drafting the revisions to not only update the Youth Center Board code, we also were updating our Parks and Recreation Board code. The first section is kind of changing the membership and appointment, because we've had some issues with our youth volunteers coming to the meetings and causing quorum issues. We decided that we were going to only have one member between the ages of 15 and 20. I believe we have a couple who, once they miss that third meeting, their term's up, they'll just be replaced with another member who resides within the city limits of Lovington. Now, they could be a youth or they could be an adult. In addition to that, we also added that the Parks and Recreation Division Director, department heads of the Parks and Recreation Division are also to attend these meetings as well. And the Parks and Recreation Director is a new position that, let me go through this. Back in 2014, I believe it was, the city adopted an organizational structure just to make things flow a little bit easier with a better span of control for division directors. And we did create or have that position named as far as a Parks and Recreation Director, which that director would actually oversee the cemetery, the library, Parks and Recreation Department, our Senior Citizen Center, Theater, and Youth Center. However, that position, what we did was we did adopt Ordinance 566 back in December, which creates that by ordinance. It's a executive level position. However, that position right now is not going to be filled. Just in the event, once we see what our revenues are going to do, get some other projects away, because this is going to cost money, we do have the ability then to hire this position with the consent of the City Commission. But what we did at the same time with the Parks and Recreation Board language was we did go ahead and incorporate that so we don't have to go back later and add that. But essentially what the code update, Ordinance 564, which amended the Parks and Recreation Board, this does list by reference what they recommend. And then one thing that was added was a quarterly report by the chair of this body or a representative of this body would provide a quarterly report to the City Commission. This particular body, as well as the Youth Center, they really don't provide regular reports to the City Commission, unlike our Planning and Zoning Board and Lodgers Tax, unless it's an action item. So just to I guess, hold more accountability for our boards to the Commission, and then that way they can also maybe provide some direction during those meetings. But that's our code update. So the rest of our updates really is just to kind of run through what our facility and programs are doing. And Commissioner Campos, I'll get you a copy of this presentation. It was too large to email, but I'll see if I can get it to you somehow later. So the program and facility updates, what we have first, of course, with our cemetery. Danny Reynolds is actually our foreman out there. He's tied up right now. Wasn't able to attend the meeting. However, what we've done, the major projects that we've done is just mainly our turf management. We're still fighting those invasive species, you know, sandburrs, using chemicals and mechanical means to get rid of those. But our biggest projects right now are just fence repair. The fence out at the Gum Street Cemetery, of course, is a custom-made iron fence. And we've had multiple vehicles run into it, and it actually takes a welder to fix that. And the problem we have, of course, with the increased oil and gas activity is that it's hard to get a hold of a welder. So we just finished repairing another section, However, out at Rest Haven, we had these large wooden like telephone poles with chains, and they were rotten and they were falling apart. This is actually the cemetery out on the Tatum Highway. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we went ahead and went with a split rail fence to replace that to keep people from taking shortcuts, because there are narrow roads throughout that cemetery. At our library, of course, Debbie here is our librarian. Debbie's been in that position for 2 years. It's been 2 years now since Tarita McBride retired, but Debbie's worked for the city for quite some time. She's our librarian over there. Some of the projects that we have, actually on the north side of the library is where the old employee parking lot used to be. This is what it will look like very shortly. Through an effort with it's through New Mexico Main Street. It's called the Resiliency Alliance, I believe. They provided some grant funding for us to turn that into a parklet. And this is just the conceptual drawing. What we would have up next to this wall, of course, is a grass area. We would have a wooden pergola on the back for some shade. And then this area here is actually going to be a crushed granite. That way we have the ability to load and unload jumpers, but we'll have different interactive features, furniture, playground equipment, just a small parklet. Construction on that actually started. The asphalt's been removed. We put in curb and gutter. This area here will actually be grass, which we're waiting on the fill dirt to get here to mix it, level it, install the sprinklers, and sod. If you look back here, a little bit better view this direction, a 20 by 20 pergola, which will actually look like that, or very similar to that, will be constructed at the site. We've already got some of our furniture and different amenities there as well. Another exciting program we have is called Libraries as Launchpads. There's actually an organization called Creative Startups. It's very similar to, I guess, one of the goals that, well, when Debbie was there, when Tarita was the librarian, we had all met and decided, you know, what's the direction we want the library to go? Because the library is more than just about reading. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if this could be used as a resource for small businesses to start up, to where they have resources, they have access to computers. You know, you never know, we may produce the next Steve Jobs, an Apple computer. But what Creative Startups does, this is a nonprofit organization that's actually through a partnership with Lovington Main Street. They're actually coming in and providing us these resources, such as educators and webinars that we're really pushing and rolling out, so that way anybody who's interested in starting a business, they actually have a place to where they can meet to help them get what information and resources they need to where they can actually be self-sustaining later. They won't be setting up a personal or a actual office in there. I guess you would say it's just a meeting place for them to utilize, but it's just furthering the mission of our library. We also have Soup Day, which is next week on the 30th at lunch. This is an annual event they have. You just come on in and look at the library, and they have soup and desserts there. It's a fundraiser for an organization called Friends of the Library. The soup's free, the desserts they'll charge you for. Of course, you know, George is taking over as the supervisor of our Parks and Recreation Department. We have a lot of different things going on out there right now. One of the things that we have is we've invested $27,000 in replacing the fencing and all of at the Harold Reynolds softball field. The baseball complex is currently under construction, as well as the commercial street. We've got a couple panoramic pictures here. We went with a blue with a white cap on the top. Harold Reynolds is 100% complete. The commercial street fields are 100% complete. And the Love Street baseball fields, that's currently underway. We're actually using a work detail from the Geo Group State Correctional Facility with trustees coming up and providing all of that labor for us and in the installation. Doing a pretty good job too, and moving along quickly. As you can see, the turf out at Harold Reynolds doesn't look great, but there's a reason for that, because we actually just finished the installation of the irrigation system out there. Total project price was $128,000. However, George has started some turf remediation out there, irrigation, tearing it up with the intention of reseeding, or we're actually getting some quotes right now for hydroseed to restore that turf out there. Now that we actually have a good irrigation system, we can start with that restoration. Getting the turf back up to a really beautiful, pristine condition, it's probably going to take close to a year. However, we're coming a long way from where we were. You can see on Google Earth the sprinkler patterns where we were getting water and where we weren't. But that project is 100% complete. It was actually completed on time back in January. Right now we're looking also at replacing the backstop, getting rid of the chain link and going with a netting material. It's eye appeal. Help modernize the facility, especially at Harold Runnels, because those softball tournaments bring in a lot of people, and really just increasing the attractiveness and usability of those facilities is a priority. Out at Chaparral Park, they actually completed the installation of 19 large trees throughout that park at around $15,000. When I say large trees, you can see this particular tree here. We also have trees on the berm surrounding the splash pad, and they're anywhere from 15 to 20 foot tall. They do have berms, and we also have irrigation to all of these new trees, as well as some of the other younger trees that were planted previously. So instead of staff having to go around and manually water them, it's tied into our existing irrigation system. So that way these trees will help get established and grow and just replace some of those older ones that, believe it or not, have a lifespan that eventually will have to go away for safety reasons. But the majority of these trees are planted in this particular cluster here. We didn't want to plant additional trees in this particular area because of additional future planned, playground equipment. We don't want to plant a tree and get it in the way, but also tree sites were selected out of respect to the disc golf course. George worked with the disc golf course group to make sure that we didn't plant a tree and it totally mess up a hole for him. George is currently right now working on getting quotes for our pool pump room shade structure. It does need to be expanded and replaced. We did budget $13,000 for it, but it looks like it's going to come in significantly cheaper. George has found some different vendors and different types of shade structure, which is a little bit more durable. But also we're able to get an engineer's permit on it. Because of its size, we have to actually get a permit from the state.
So what's the reason for the expansion?
The existing pool shade structure, it's a little too high. So whenever the sun gets to a certain angle, the sun rays go right through it. And it'll help prevent, getting the pipe brittle. I'm surprised that all the piping outside has lasted this long, because it's just really exposed to the sun rays. And with this new pool structure, I'm kind of looking forward to aiming towards the carport type, where the ends come and wrap around, and that'll help also with the sun rays. Because if it's in the morning or certain hours past, 3 or 4 in the afternoon, those rays are, it's not working like it should. And it'll cover the concrete pad that's there, so that'll give us about 12 foot or extra feet of shade that we can have some equipment under there, like our pool or vacuum pool, and maybe perhaps some of our chemicals, and they won't be exposed to the sun rays also.
Our next project, hopefully we're looking for funding on this. Commercial Street restrooms for the Commercial Street baseball complex. Those restrooms need to be torn down and replaced. But we're also the concession stand there right now, the Little League. They're actually using a concession trailer on loan from the Chamber of Commerce. So what we're looking at, we've applied for capital outlay funding, which is a state appropriation, to the tune of about $250,000 is what we're estimating. For demolition, replacement of the backstop, because when the old concession stand comes down, we've got to replace it with backstop. because that's actually part of that field. Also ADA compliant restrooms, and instead of rebuilding an actual concession stand, we want to go with a concession trailer, because that field doesn't get too much use, but then we may have softball tournaments come in or large baseball tournaments that also come in, to where we can actually move that to accommodate the increased volume of people, just for that. But we're looking for capital outlay funding for this. I believe this was priority number 3. Priority number 4 for capital outlay was replacement of the amphitheater out at Chaparral Park. That structure has been in place probably since the 70s. It's really starting to show its age. But this would replace it. It would provide for electrical upgrades, lighting, and then also audio visual. So not only could we do a concert out there, but it would also be a little bit more user-friendly from a standpoint of movies in the park. Just a brand new structure. This is not necessarily what they would look like. These are just examples of what could be. Number 1 priority, of course, is the City-County Veterans Memorial. This would actually fall under the purview of this particular board. The city and the county actually entered into an agreement to establish a county veterans memorial in downtown Lovington, where essentially we split these costs. This is one of those projects that's really, it's an unfunded project at this point. We're actively looking for grants, whether it be through state capital outlay, federal funds, or even private foundations. But we're looking at about a $2.1 million project. We still have to do the planning and coordinating with the Lee County Veterans Memorial Committee. We're terming it, or titling it, a Veterans Memorial Park, because frankly there's really not a lot of funding out there for a memorial site. However, for parks, there's different sources that we could potentially tap into. But this would be an outdoor space in the downtown area. I believe that the Veterans Memorial Committee with the county, they would like to have interactive features, maybe even some buildings on the site, but it'd be more than just a park. It would be a beautiful outdoor open space. We actually already have the site selected. This would be located just to the south of the brand new judicial complex. Central Avenue's here, of course, bordered by East and Eddy. We've already started acquiring property, as we dedicated to at least each entity spending at least $300,000 to do the planning, property acquisition. This whole process started because somebody had listed some property in this particular site on the market, and so we discussed this with the city commission, and we have started the property acquisition. So we're buying it a little bit at a time, and we'll have a park eventually, probably, I would hope, in the next 4 years. We also, Fran Ashley Parklet, right next door to the theater. We have that little parklet right there in the corner of Central and Main. Part of the Resiliency Alliance that's helping to fund the library parklet. Same principle applies. This would actually just update, clear out some of the vegetation in there, put in some outdoor streetscape furniture, maybe a rock water feature type appurtenance over there, but just to update that park, make it a little bit more user friendly for our downtown events. But that, of course, is just another small park. This one is actually probably, well, actually I can tell you right now, it's less labor intensive than our library, the parklet. The Fran Ashley project is just simply updating some of the broken furniture that's downtown. Our senior citizens director, of course, Norma V. Hill, she's worked there for many years. She's running that program, which that's kind of a neat program because it's partially funded through the federal government, state of New Mexico, with the city matching that. We have tons of activities down there for the seniors. We also provide 3 meals on site a week, as well as do the Meals on Wheels program, where we do home delivered meals. The latest improvements that we've done down there, through a state appropriation, we were able to obtain a brand new ADA wheelchair accessible van so that we can actually transport the patrons of the facility if they do have needs, wheelchair needs. We actually have a better capability to get them to different doctor's appointments, do shopping, and things like that. I know there's a little bit of a delay getting our license plates from the state. Even though we have our own motor vehicle department, we can't get our plates from there. They come from Santa Fe, so that's been a fun experience. Our Lee Theater. Lee Theater, of course, Star is not here today. She's out, but she's our manager. She's actually a part-time employee who does all of the marketing, the scheduling, supply purchasing. But the city did purchase that theater a couple of years ago. One of the things that we did was we purchased it. However, a nonprofit organization was running it. The city had determined actually last November that essentially the nonprofit organization, it wasn't going to be able to sustain operations, and so we enacted our ability to terminate their lease and assume operations of the theater because it was viewed as a quality of life initiative, which from July 1st to present, which is our fiscal year, we've had over 2,600 attendees to date, which we're averaging about 90 per weekend. If you look at from when we took it over December 21st to now, over I want to say it was about 5,200 people have utilized the facility, and that's just with our ticket sales. That doesn't include facility rentals or other special events that we host down there. As far as revenues, we're tracking. We're right on track as far as tickets and concession sales. And then as far as our expenditures, we're right on track. We do have, the city does subsidize this to the tune of about $21,000. Mainly, we have to provide that general fund transfer because there's some capital improvements that we need to conduct. But you can see our attendance this year, it does dip down. August was a slow month, September started picking up, but also if you look at the movie selections, from basically August to October, they weren't really all that great. One thing that we have learned is that even though a lot of adults say all you guys show is kids movies perform exceedingly well. Since we've opened it, I think we've had 3 sold out shows where we literally had to turn people away because we had no more seats. Which now we have completed the seat installation. We have a capacity now of 224. Down on the main auditorium floor. But you can also see where it does ebb and flow. Actually, we're performing a lot better. This was December of 17 and January of 2018, and you can actually see that December of this year and January we're actually performing a lot better, and that's just through a lot of our marketing and special events that we have, plus the movie selections that we've had. So we've replaced all of those seats. We replaced the auditorium swamp coolers. We've also are planning on beginning the remodel of concessions. The existing concession stand, one of the problems that we have is that we only have one point of sale system, and it does cause a backlog. Through some creative queuing, we've sped that up, but we've actually received some design assistance to respect the historic nature of the theater, but we'll be remodeling the concession stand to where we can actually have 2 point of sales. So that way you're not standing in line for so long. Another thing that we're going to be doing is moving the entry doors, the wooden entry doors that are there right now. That's not their original location. That particular area or era of theater, if you go into the theater right now, you go in through those wooden doors, and then you see those really weird, out-of-place white patio glass pane doors. Those were added as an afterthought. The wooden doors on the outside actually are supposed to be where those white ones are because that theater, when it was first built, the ticket booth, it stood in the center. You could actually walk all the way around the ticket booth. We did get a facade improvement grant. It's a matching grant from New Mexico or Lovington Main Street to actually move those doors back. And that project should be starting more than likely in I believe Star was telling me end of February because the movie season starts to slow down, and we want to try to time it to where we're not interfering with any major premieres or special events. And of course, one of the other things that the marquee is the next major project. We did ask for some capital outlay funding to upgrade the Cavern Theater down in Carlsbad. They did a complete LED upgrade. That's very similar to what we want to do with the Lee Theater sign out front. However, we're probably looking at $150,000 to restore it. We've asked for capital outlay funding from the state to see if we can't get a legislative appropriation from that. Because right now, simply put, the revenue stream is not sufficient enough, and we have other priorities in our parks and recreation and city that need to take place over the marquee restoration. So we are working on that particular project. Of course, to garner more attendance, we do dinner and a movie. What's really nice is that we've actually got 40 to 50 feet from the first row of seats to the stage to where we can actually seat 48 people at round tables. And what we'll do is when we have a movie that's more suited for, I guess, more mature audiences, like for instance Bohemian Rhapsody, you go in, you purchase your tickets for, like, I want to say if you buy them early, it's $20 a person. You get fed, you get a drink, and you get to watch the movie. It's a great date night. Bohemian Rhapsody was the last one we did. We actually had, we went to capacity as far as all of the seating up front. Drylands Brewing actually hosted or provided the food for that event. And they did actually serve some of their New Mexico beer and wine there. That went over really well. Some of our other ones that we've had Burger Builders provide the food. We had Baja Grill. I think they served fried fish. We showed the Meg. And then let's see, what else did we do for our first one? What did we do? Oh, we had Cornerstone. It was a pasta plate. They're starting to get a little bit more popular, but Bohemian Rhapsody, not only was it a good movie, but it actually did really well from that particular. We made money on that one to offset some of our overhead. Also, whenever we do premieres, one of our local businesses, it's a new one called Fancy Events. They have agreed to help us when we do a premiere. They decorate the interior, that you do the red carpet treatment. Actually, for our December 21st show, what we did was we actually had the red carpet outside, and we had one of those searchlight things going on out front just to help celebrate that 1-year anniversary. But this was very well received. It really jazzed up the place, and Fancy Events is, in exchange for some free advertising, they've agreed to continue this, which it's just something different. Another thing that we're doing, which we are premiering the Lego movie, the second Lego movie on the week of February 7th. The movie actually premieres that Thursday, but we'll show it all weekend. But we've partnered up with New Mexico Main Street, of course the city, Fly Hobbs, and the youth center to bring in this gentleman who will host these Lego workshops. And it's designed where we're going to have them work with our STEAM lab at the youth center. It's the technology lab to build this Lego robot. There will be a couple of individual sessions on Lego building at the library, at some of the schools. But on February 9th, and one of the things that we're going to do at the commission meeting on Monday night is issue a proclamation where it's a temporary name change for the city on February 9th. We're going to call it Bricksburg, which is the name of the community or the city in the Lego movie. We'll actually have a 3-hour free public event where Legos are provided. You go and you build your creations, and those creations save the city, and there will be door prizes. And it's just meant to stimulate learning, but also just draw attention. It's a marketing technique just to draw attention to the theater, because believe it or not, there's still people there who don't realize you have you have different seats in there, and just what the theater is all about. But that's actually coming up. At our youth center, Melinda is still our director down there. You can see that our average attendance per day Of course, October, believe it or not, was our highest average month, but we're averaging probably anywhere from 60 to 70 kids coming through the center every day. There are certain peak periods that we have, days of the week, but we do have several events planned in 2019. Of course, we still have our after-school programs throughout the week where we have different games, we have fitness programs, we have craft time, we have cooking for kids of all ages from 3:30 to 5:30. We do post our calendar of events on the Youth Center Facebook page. So we have several events throughout in our actual regular schedule that we have for the rest of the month in January. They had a mother-daughter dance January 11th that went over really well. It was very well attended. They just actually completed glow-in-the-dark dodgeball. Or no, I'm sorry, that's actually this Friday. No, it's next Friday, right? No, it's this Friday. I'm sorry, yeah. It is this Friday, so glow-in-the-dark dodgeball ought to be interesting. And then we have our Valentine's Day dance on February 15th. It's open to all ages. Then we'll also, in March, Melinda has planned the second Selena Festival, which the first one went over really good. They'll actually be bringing back the second round of Nerf gun wars in April. They just get to go wild in there. And then, of course, our STEAM lab. This was a grant. What made this possible was a partnership with the Maddox Foundation. They provided a $35,000 grant for us to develop a science and technology lab there in the youth center. We actually have Apple computers, we also have PCs, we have 3D printers, we have drones. They're learning coding, they're learning some engineering skills, and what's cool is that some of this is student-led, but we actually have times and schedules set up. It's an actual, it's kind of bad to call it a class, because kids don't like to hear that, but we have kindergarten groups, we have it broken up into different age groups. To where they come in and they learn different things. They're making a movie. They're doing a lot of different things down there. But if you know anybody who's got kids K through 12, send them down there. It's a really exciting program. But it's been a very good investment, and it's building some more steam behind it. No pun intended. Also, our youth council, we're trying to reinvigorate that. This is actually they'll elect their members from individuals who attend the youth center. They'll actually have an election to coincide with the March elections that the city goes through in even number of years. And then, of course, she's already starting the summer camp program, looking to see how we can build on that like we did last year. It went over very good. They were overwhelmed, but we're still planning on kicking off next summer. And that is all we have for our facility updates, unless you or Commissioner Campos have any questions.
Paul, any questions?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you have any questions?
No, that was a great presentation. Thanks for putting time into that. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
Is that it? I just had one question about, remember you and I visited about the cemetery and the branches that were kind of like crossing over into the driveway area?
Yes, they're supposed to be getting on that.
Okay, all right. Just picking up on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, I thought it was good. I don't have any questions.
Don't ask me if we'll be here all night.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it. So I guess we can go ahead and.
Street, what are we doing?
I'm sorry. What?
17th Street Sports Complex.
So we're actually waiting on a couple of things. We're waiting to find out the. Well, as far as the sports complex, that's kind of on hold until we actually get some planning and design funds, because that still looks like about a $9 million price tag.
Hydro loan, what do we say about that?
I'm sorry.
Hydro loan?
Yeah, we're actually waiting on the quote, so we can see what it's going to cost for those fields, and so we can figure out, well, can we afford this? We do have some funding, but we also have to do the K-line system out there to do that. But we're at the mercy of vendors right now trying to get those quotes. Fortunately, Boyd Brothers does that. But George has been working with them, and we're just trying to get those quotes in to find out what it's going to cost.
Do we have any plans for the main reservation area at Chapel Park?
The main you're talking about the large covered shelter there? Not at this time. I mean, I know that structure needs an update as well. But that would be worth discussing. What are our needs? Do we need to expand it? Do we just need to replace the structure?
Okay, I didn't know if we had any plans.
No, that actually has not even come up as far as updating or maybe replacing the structure, but as far as trying to determine, do we need to offer more at that particular location? No, that has not been discussed.
The plans for the trail from Chapel Park to Courthouse.
That is temporarily on hold due to the federal government. They have pushed that project back. The design is at about 90% complete, but we have to wait on the feds until they release it during another cycle.
That's all I got. I think in the last meeting you said that the tree replacement was going to cost $100,000. We've spent $15,000. Are we doing that in phases, or?
It's going to have to be phased out, yes. So this is the first round that we will do, and we'll eventually start replacing others.
Cool. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well, I guess we're done unless you've thought of anything else, Commissioner Campos.
No, sir, I appreciate you joining in my telephone.
Okay.
What did we decide on the restrooms for Lush Street? Baseball.
Those have been remodeled. Yes, no, those are that project actually got completed before the end of the I believe it was the end of the fiscal year. But no, actually the concession stand been updated, but the restrooms have they all work. They're ADA compliant. We did kind of briefly discuss the need for second restrooms, but we need to replace the ones out of commercial first before we decide to build another set.
Vandalism? How's vandalism? I know we talked about that last time.
Yeah, it hasn't been too bad lately.
Too cold.
Yeah, it's just kids at the park, you know, crazy drivers out there.
Right, I noticed, I don't know if it's just me, but I've noticed an appearance of more homeless people.
Yeah.
Is that affecting operations here?
No, there was one vehicle that I called on, and the officers went out and checked on it, and that same day, I don't know if those people were watching, but that car was gone. Now there's another vehicle that goes out there, but they don't stay there out a whole lot. And I think they've been visited also.
Because I know they're probably looking at our parks to stay overnight. So
Yeah, no, the officers are doing really good about, you know, closing up the park at 11 like they should. Dispatch called me one day saying that the men's bathroom wasn't locking. So we went out there and got that repaired. It was just the batteries that need to get replaced every now and then. So yeah, they're doing their job. They're doing a good job.
Cool. All right.
anything for me?
Nope, I think we're good. So we'll hopefully have more to report at the April meeting. So we'll get those dates out as soon as we set it. So that's it.
Stop the complaint, I appreciate y'all.
No problem, sir.
Everybody showed up.
Yeah. Well, we don't have any public here for comment unless staff have anything they want to share. No? All right. We'll